everybody. Welcome to a live episode of Critical Reroll, the show where a bunch of nerdy-ass fans talk about a show in which nerdy-ass voice actors play Dungeons & Dragons. This is episode 72, where we cover episode 1 motherfucking 100 of Critical Role. I'm your host, Herky. Good day. As you can see, we've got a couple cool guests here with me today. I'll just let them introduce themselves since you're already seeing them. We'll start with Jess.
Hi, Jess, at go_JG, sometimes host, today a guest, and yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah, Anne-Marie.
Hey guys, I'm Anna Marie, AC_Mickey on Twitter. I'm a Critter fan artist and just general fan. You may have seen me around.
Yeah, we have.
Just a bit.
Well, even like right now, we can see you, actually.
Oh my goodness, I was not aware.
Yeah. And then we have this last guy.
Hi everyone, I'm Ian, This Is Not Ian. You can find me on Twitter. I have no particular talents at all, but big fan, so just thought I'd hang out with some people and have a chat.
Cool. Yeah, we originally designed this to be like a live hostful episode, but then Matt got busy, and then Kimmy got busy, and now we have just us, just the cool ones left. But it'll be fun, I think. So let's go ahead and get started. We are not going to do just an episode recap. We will do that first, but considering this is the 100th episode, that's the reason we're doing it live. We figured we might make it a little more of a celebration of the show in general, and what has happened over the past 100 episodes, how things have gone, where things are going, since at this point it looks like things are starting to, wrap up. But first we'll talk about the episode on Thursday. Well,
Buddy.
we'll go through a kind of quick run through of how things actually went down. Some shit happened.
A lot of shit happened.
Yeah. So the first thing, they get a new set, which is amazing and beautiful and gorgeous. And
It was clearly a green screen.
Yeah,
definitely a green screen.
absolutely.
100%
It is kind of
not
funny.
an
It's
actual.
so gorgeous that you could pass it off as a green. I didn't think it was, but you could pass it off as a green screen. So I thought it was funny that they made a point of showing it was not.
Yeah, it was because of the backlighting. People could see the light, them being lit from behind. So that to most people just sounds like green screen, because with a green screen you sometimes get the reflection of light behind you, because it's not natural. It's just a wall, and the light would be reflecting there. But since they now actually have, it looks like backlighting coming from behind them. I think that's what made people think it was a green screen. But it's pretty awesome nonetheless.
I have to say, for the first little bit, I thought it was as well, but it wasn't because of the backlight. It was so kind of picture perfect. Like, it was just an unbelievable high quality. Considering what we're used to, it's always been amazing, but it always has been a little bit kind of rickety in your garage type thing. So, but then all of a sudden, this amazingly beautiful scene, I was like, that's not real. There's no way.
Yeah, things feel real all of a sudden. So they announced some new merch, posters, and that Slayer's cake commercial was so good.
I cannot believe that they actually made aprons for the Slayer's cake. I didn't realize there was a demand for aprons. I mean, I didn't realize I wanted one until I saw one.
Oh,
It was Laura Bailey's demand, wasn't it? From what the cast was saying.
I
She
100%
doesn't surprise
believe
me at all.
it. Yeah, it's funny. I'm 31 years old, and I've never owned an apron in my life until a month and a half ago when I ordered
you
one
too.
from the Adventure Zone, and then ordered one on Thursday from Critical Role. So
Yep, so
now
is
I
this turning
am
into like
going
a
to.
thing?
I'll never use them. I'm just gonna hang and look cool, but
It just
Frame them. You know,
gotta
like
wear
those frames
just
to
the
put like
apron and nothing
jerseys in. Put an apron in it.
I should just hang them on my wall.
It's the fact that it was white that put me off. Like, if I'm actually going to cook with something, like spilling all sorts of food crap over it's just going to get stained and look awful. So, I was like, I can't. If it was any other color, I would have been there, I think.
And we can't cast prestidigitation.
You can. I think some of us can.
Secrets.
Yeah.
I think it's one
So
of those things. Just get that and take it to a signing event and just have it signed and then frame it.
Ooh, now that is a good call. Not
Yeah.
that I'm ever going to get to a signing event, but
you never know.
I'll send it to one of you, and then you can do it for me.
You never know. So the episode actually starts, and then they go to Ankarel via the Sun Tree. Well, first of all, we should mention that Lionel is back.
Yeah,
Probably
I love
my
that he
favorite
made a
guest ever.
reappearance.
yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, I absolutely adore John Heater, and Lionel is amazing. And before we get, I'm just going to talk about John Heater for a minute. Before we actually get into everything that happens here in the episode, so I actually met John Heater last weekend, and he is an absolute delight. And we talked for probably too long about Critical Role, and he is every bit as pure as Lionel is. It's kind of hilarious because he's apparently been like planning on being a guest for like over a year now, and he's pretty good friends with Sam. He works with him all the time, but he doesn't know anything else about the show or the cast or anything. When he's up there like being completely innocent and not knowing what's going on, he really has no idea what's going on. When I talked to him and I mentioned critters, and he was like, what is that? What's a critter? What does that mean? And I was like, oh, like fans of Critical Role. And he's like, oh, that makes sense, I guess. He didn't know how like Twitch works. He was like, can you guys even like watch past episodes? I don't know. I thought this thing was just like live. And I was like, yeah, but you can actually listen and watch them. You can listen to them now as a podcast, but you can watch past episodes on YouTube and everything like that. He asked like, what happens when a player is busy with work? Like, do they do the show? Like, how does that happen? And I was like, yeah, some of them have been away. For example, like Liam was out in Jersey visiting family and stuff. And he just looked at me and was like, wait, which one is Liam? That's how pure he is. He doesn't even know like anyone's actual name. And I was like,
Oh my
Vax. He's like, oh, okay. The like rogue one, right? And I was like, yeah. And yeah, it's pretty funny because he's so pure and this is so new to him, and he's pretty much Lionel in real life.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I also love that he doesn't really know who critters are, and then I'm sure he got just completely overwhelmed with shit tons of fan art after the first episode he was on.
Yeah, I'm sure his Twitter exploded.
There's too much cute like Lionel and Duck. Just ducks. There was so much ducks.
I just hope that he loves ducks as much as Lionel does.
He's gonna be bloody sick of the things now.
Yeah.
Why the fuck did I
don't
choose
like
ducks?
that much.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that the aside is over, one of the things the first thing that's brought up and why I mentioned Lionel and, to begin with was we talk about how he's never actually touched Scanlan. This entire time he hasn't known Scanlan's true form, and he he would have known something was up if he tried to touch him and couldn't. And then poor little adorable Keyleth asked if he hasn't been hugged in a year. And then there's 10 minutes of hugging it out between all of Vox Machina minus Scanlan.
Yeah, for her inspiring leader.
Yeah, that's pretty much the most Keyleth way of using that feature.
Yeah.
I love that Keyleth is finding like her own ways to be an inspiring leader because she can't really give speeches.
Yeah.
I feel like this one was the most her so far because like all her other speeches like people like fully refuse them and stuff like that too. But like hugs, like it's just like group hugs. 10
And the
minutes.
fact that it was 10 minutes of it, so
10
therefore it was really awkward. So
Yeah.
inspiring leader in one of the most awkward ways possible. Oh.
Yeah. Anytime a hug gets over like 20 seconds, it gets real awkward. So imagine that times 10 minutes. So they sort of figure out what Scanlan's been doing in this time. He takes them into his home base sort of thing. He's got like a tobacco shop and an employee, or seemingly multiple employees. The first thing that happens that kind of racks your brain a little bit is he's talking to the employee, Doran, and he asks how things were gone in his absence. And his response was, "You've only been gone a few hours, but they've been okay." So, like, what did you guys think in that moment?
It puzzled me at first, but I think possibly was it just like metaphorical or sarcasm, that it was just like, oh, you know, it's not been gone, you've not been gone long enough for anything to fall to shit, to be honest. So at first I was puzzled like that as well, but I then thought it was, you know, just some kind of quip at him, really.
I remember thinking, I was like, oh right, like Kaylee might be like in the form, in his like fake form also. But when he said like, oh, you haven't been here in a few hours, I was like, oh, at least they didn't cross paths.
Oh yeah.
That's what
that
I
would
thought
be
in that
awkward.
moment.
Yeah. My first thought was like, oh shit, Scanlan's been lying, and he can like teleport now. Like he actually just teleported to Whitestone, was there a few hours, and brought them back. That doesn't line up really, because I think he was there for more than a few hours, but it's hard to remember how long he was actually in Whitestone with them. I feel like they came with him pretty quickly. And then I started thinking like, well, okay, if Scanlan is level 18, he can have some sort of teleportation, because he can get more spells from other classes. But we find out later that it's none of those things. Yeah, he and Kaylee have just been disguising themselves as this meat man, and throwing off everybody, including their own employees.
They've been throning.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, like a thief lord, crime lord kind of thing, where, you know, maybe like the true identity's never known and their power reaches like way beyond them, sort of thing, which I love that kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. One of the funny things that happens here is Grog tries to get Doran to shake Scanlan's hand for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I think just because he's such a good employee and not intimidated enough, I guess he doesn't actually try. But that was pretty funny.
Grog rolled really high, didn't he? Like get like
Yeah,
a
on his
19 or
deception.
something
Yeah.
too. Like I was like, oh man, Grog is really like out to get Scanlan. Like,
He
he's
did.
just-
I think in that sense, what he had done was convince him that he should shake his hand and try, but with a handshake, you're not going to forcibly grab someone else's hand if they don't put theirs out. So I think without Scanlan actually putting his out, there's really no way for him to follow through on it.
It's still amazing they were able to go that long without anyone noticing that the meat man was not who he or what he appeared to be. I forget, did they say how long he had been sort of like that meat man persona in
Like
Opera?
8 months or something.
Yeah, Lionel said
Yeah,
that he was
that's a
with him for
pretty-
almost a year.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty long time to hold up that deception.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen the routine that Scanlan and Kaylee had for, like, right, I'll go into the cupboard and then I'll change and then you drop it and you walk out, and like how they had to do that changeover every time.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. It's funny because I don't think any of them will listen to this, so it doesn't matter, but I'm actually doing something incredibly similar in a current campaign I'm running. Most of my party members don't know what I actually look like because I'm in a disguise the whole time and none of them know it. And I'm already thinking about like
Amazing.
how they're going to find out and when it's going to happen. And it's going to be soon. I can't imagine putting that on for like a year.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's such a fun thing to play. Like, what kind of character is that? Because I had a character that had the charlatan background, and like she didn't only like her best friend knew her real name, and otherwise she was going by like personas all the time, like fake characters all the time.
Yeah,
And she was a
it's
yeah,
exactly
so
like that. He's actually a warlock, but everyone thinks he's a bard.
oh my god, that's even better.
Yeah, and
How are you managing that?
It's so
How is
good.
that
well, he has
possible?
the invocation that allows him to cast the sky stuff at will, and it's pretty entertaining. Yeah, the only person who knows his real name is another character in the party who he's kind of traveled with, but we'll see how that goes. If you guys want to talk about it later, we can do that, but it's fun. It's interesting. He has a pet monkey, which isn't actually a monkey.
Oh
It's an
my
imp
God.
who shapeshifted into a monkey. No one
This
knows
character
this
is the best.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. It was kind of cute that Scanlan asked for, I think he asked Kaylee specifically, to look into getting a few ducks as pets for Lionel.
And did he say something like they have good information or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, but Kaylee and him are actually like the cutest thing ever. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Kind of love Kaylee and Lionel. Their banter together is just like so good.
Yeah, when she doesn't seem that into it, he just says, if he dies, we'll just eat the ducks. And Lionel says, no, they'll tell you where to bury me. And
Yeah.
I died.
He's like they know all the good spots.
I think that was
Like,
my
that's
favorite
really good
line
information.
of this episode and maybe forever. I don't know.
Oh, I love that premise. Oh, so cute.
So Kaylee gives up her amulet to Vex, not by Vex's choice. She happened to win the strength contest to actually get it
She
away.
won with a 9. Like,
Yeah.
what did he roll? And he used
Not
luck
good.
too.
But it's an amulet of the drunkard, which allows them to heal when drinking, which is pretty cool.
Is that a real item?
I don't know.
No, I think it's a homebrew, or at least from like some, other material.
Emphasis on brew, right?
I just like how that item could have benefited any member of Vox Machina.
Yeah.
Although it could have assured Grok would constantly be at pure hit points.
Yeah. Grog's the only one who carries alcohol around with him, but he also has
Yeah.
the least need for a healing
Percy does
potion.
too.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Does
true.
it does it work when they fall unconscious though? So instead of pouring a healing potion in, could someone pour a pint of beer in their mouth when they're making death saves if they're out of healing potions?
Probably. I mean, it would make sense,
Didn't they
right?
revive Grog once that way? Like one of the things was that Grog? One of the items they did was pouring ale and
Yeah, I
again,
think
mouth.
that was Vex. I think she poured
Nope.
it into
Yeah.
as part of like the resurrection ritual or whatever. Yeah.
Healing power of alcohol confirmed.
So from there, they determine that they need to get to Smolder Crown. I don't know if that's the name of the area or not, but essentially where Lionel found the second ziggurat,
Wasn't that the name of the mountain?
possibly.
Sorry.
Hey, you're here to help me because your information is more recent than mine. I watched
I have
when it was live, and
rely on
I was
my
half
info.
asleep.
I have 0 notes. I fell asleep during watching. It took me 4 tries to finish watching it beginning to end, and then I only just I listened to. Oh, there you go. Someone said it in chat. Smolder Crown Mountains. I totally didn't rip the audio because that would be rude, but that's the only chance I get to listen to it. I'm so glad they're gonna have the audio on a podcast now because sometimes that's the only way I have time to listen to it.
Yeah, the
Long
only
drive,
problem with that
working.
is even when they do all the way get caught up, it's probably still not going to be up as a podcast until at least a few days or a week later or something.
I know, and I need it
Who can go
immediately.
that long? Yeah, I can't go that long.
Yeah, I'm there too. It's true.
If I haven't watched Critical Role, that means I can't be on Twitter.
Yeah.
And if I can't be
Yeah.
on Twitter, my
True.
life is over. So
I got spoiled because I fell asleep shortly after the break, and then like first thing I saw was like who the baddie was, and I was like, no.
I was
ruined.
the same way.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay up. I went to bed after the break, and I got up and I saw on Twitter, and I was like, no one messaged me about my literal favorite person in this entire show.
Welcome to my world. You know,
Yeah.
I never get to watch live, and I cannot go on Twitter on Friday unless I'm willing to accept that I'm going to have the whole plot line completely ruined. So I desperately try and like ignore my notifications until Friday night when I can try and watch it, or Saturday morning.
it's a hard life, man.
Yeah, stupid country that I live in.
So while they're there, they're looking around. Lionel kind of knows where they're going, but the entrance to where the ziggurat was has been caved in. They determine that it was done purposely, and Vex noticed lots of footprints and activity around the area. And while they're doing lots of discussion about where they should go and how they should get in, she notices a false wall.
Yeah.
And goes inside and is attacked with what seems to be a finger of death sitting inside of a glyph. And that was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, 61 points in necrotic damage, I think it was. Luckily, at full health, that's not that bad for them, but if she were lower, it's typical Vex to fail one of those and
Well,
I like how that's sort of like a typical trap now. Like a finger of death is just sort of like, oh, that sucked, but we can just sort of
Yeah.
shake that off.
Yeah, they're like super careful about it afterwards, and it turns out that it was just, like a one-time thing, and it wouldn't really hurt most of them much anyway. Grog's willing to just go in and try, despite everyone else's better judgment. But one of the other things that happens here is that Keyleth and Lionel use some joint communing, with Lionel summoning a duck from who knows where to fly out to him and help him.
Matt's impression of the duck coming in is one of my absolute favorite moments. Oh my god, the way Matt is just so good at sounds and it was
But even
perfect.
his mannerisms of the duck neck and stuff
You
like that,
would
it was
think
just
that,
amazing.
He'd played a duck at some point in his career. And it's like, how can you just pull a duck out of the ether, basically?
I don't know. Maybe he's been practicing his duck impressions all week. Who knows? But he's a genius. So they try to get inside. They eventually Scanlan dimension doors in after Vex had shot an Oracle arrow in to find out what's going on, and they realize it's just a long cave. They decide to go in. They see some more of the glyphs. I think Vax finds them, and Keyleth dispels both of them, the two that Vax actually found. And then, in typical Lionel fashion, he just yells "hello" really loudly as soon as they start to see movement, and spoils their stealthiness, which in some senses is really funny, but at the same time, the stakes are high. And of course, John doesn't really know much about this. He doesn't really understand what's invested into this show and these characters. So to him, it's just kind of fun, which is what it seems like it is for Lionel too. But could you imagine your whole party dying because a guest comes in and just blows your cover? It'd be
Yeah,
the
because I think
worst.
probably most of the guests that come on at least sort of know the show, or have a general idea of it, even if they don't actively watch it. The fact that John has really no idea what this is really about is actually really funny. Because it's how much of this is role playing Lionel, and how much of this is just John not completely knowing all the context of what's going on.
Yeah. It'd be the worst way to have a TPK after a 4 or 5 year long campaign.
Like, do you think he would feel guilty, or do you think he'd still just be like, eh?
I honestly don't know. I feel like maybe if once he understood the severity of it, maybe he would feel guilty. But I don't think he feels guilty about what he did already. So once that happens, basically they're sent a whole bunch of skeletons to kind of figure out what's going on. Scanlan goes back and tries to cast the mansion as just a getaway in case things get real crazy. It takes a minute, but they're able to hold off the incoming skeletons, which they turn out to be, with Keyleth fireballing them and whatnot. And then they go inside the mansion and have kind of a little bit of a rest. And one of the funny things that I have noted here is the Grog making Scanlan and Tarion talk to each other was so good.
That was so good. That was one of the other like amazing moments. Just like he wanted it so bad. He was like
pushing for
he
it.
kept pushing.
Yes.
Oh god. I was like, thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Don't be
I saw someone in
rude,
chat say that he
reply.
was like salty, but I think it was just because it's funny.
Yeah.
like Travis said, you brought this on yourself, so deal with it. Because I mean that's not going to be the case for much longer. So I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. So inside the mansion, Vax and Scanlan play cards, have a little chat, a little heart to heart, and find out what Scanlan's done in this time away. Scanlan basically lets them know that the only place he had to go, the only thing he had to do and on his mind were to get revenge on the people that wronged him back here. So
In the casino.
yeah, he kind of put them out of business and became the new counterfeiter in this area, but a good one, or so he says, only wronging the bad people. And we know that Scanlan is a good aligned character, so I don't think he's being dishonest about that.
But how often do like bad guys think they're bad guys? Like a lot of people think like they're doing the right thing and stuff like that, and so like, I mean, like we want to hope. Like I hope he's being a good guy, and I'm sure he mostly is. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little, like it's a little worse than he's viewing it, because he's gonna come up with a reason why everything he does is still good and on the level.
True. So, the rest of the night, Vex will peek out and notice that there are about 13 skeletons who have made their way into the alley. Pike and Vex have a little heart-to-heart, and Grog and Pike interacting is pretty adorable, too. It's cool to see a little downtime between everybody.
And nice to hear them all kind of collect their thoughts about the situation, because when Scanlan came back, they didn't do too much of that. So now they've had a night's rest, and it's nice to kind of collect all their ideas together and see how they're all feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially since like when he comes in, like it's a huge reaction. So, emotions are running high, so it's kind of hard to gauge where they actually like really are in all of this, especially like after the fact. So it was kind of nice for everyone to sit down and see like what they're really thinking rather than just sort of like how they're reacting to it, like in the moment of its arrival.
And I liked when Vex was talking to Pike and said, well, hang on a second, you forgave your family and they kind of fucked you over far more than he did. And it was at that point that you saw Ashley kind of go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. And that was a real... It was nice to see that instant kind of flip round.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact she was going to fuck with him for a bit longer, but...
Yeah, I think maybe Keyleth and Percy were the only ones who really didn't have like a Scanlan talk that I can remember about like really how they felt about everything, but everybody else sort of had some conversations about either with or about Scanlan and how they felt about him being around and what they were going to do with, like I said, Grog and Pike being kind of adorable about how they were so mad at him, but they still kind of loved him and wanted him to be back, and they decided that they wanted to impress him. So in the morning, while everyone's eating their breakfast salads or...
Breakfast salads.
I think were there lima
granola,
beans or
yeah.
something?
Oh, at that point they were trying to be like, can we have like acai bowls or like granola? And then they're like, wait, no, because the granola is only good with yogurt, and yogurt is vegan, so...
Yeah. It's funny to me that Kaylee would impose that on Scanlan, because she doesn't seem like she's the most careful person either. But
Maybe she found out his actual age, because you know how we don't know his age? Maybe
Yeah.
he's way older than anyone thought, and so she's like, she's like, you're old man, eat only salads from now on, you're vegan.
at that same point, though, we don't know how old Kaylee is.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think
think
she was
you
just doing it as
assume-
an extra punishment for him.
Yeah,
Just
I feel
like,
like
another way of just, you know, fuck you, I'm still mad at you, kind of, so I'm going to
Exactly.
impose this. Especially with the Meat Man title.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, I never even thought of that irony. He's called the
Yeah.
meat man, but he's
yeah, and he's
vegan.
vegan. The vegan meat man.
It didn't even occur to me. That's beautiful.
So while that's happening, them eating their breakfasts, Pike and Grog don't even bother with the food and instead try to take it on themselves to impress Scanlan. So they go outside the door to where they see about 20 skeletons, and they just decide to go ham, yelling at each other, talking about how either of them are so impressive and brave and strong. And they kill a few, as expected, with just, kind of regular skeletons. Then Matt has to remind Ashley that she has her channel divinity and can just turn or destroy undead, and she wrecks 13 of them at once, I believe.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
He said of the like, what was it, 15 within range, there's only 2 that don't just like like but I love when she was like, oh yeah, I have that, come on guys, it's been a minute, like, I love.
Yeah.
I also
Love
love
her
the
so
idea
much.
that Pike, like, just so sort of, like, goaded on by, like, Grog, just, they come out swinging. She doesn't even think that, like, oh, I could channel divinity and turn all of these undead. She just is like, I'm in this with Grog, and we're just gonna swing our maces and axes around.
Yeah, they were just in it to smash things, come on.
Yeah, I really just felt like they just needed to smash things, honestly.
Yeah, it really shows Pike's, like, scrappy fighter war domain nature rather than being just a holy cleric. So Grog doesn't do very well against one skeleton, and then when it's the last one that's available, Pike gets him to actually go back and fight this thing, because the whole point of this is they're trying to impress Scanlan, and Pike yells, Grog, help me, I need help. And then that just kind of triggers him to go into the magic, oh, I need to help my friend Pike moment, and he doesn't do so well.
Oh.
You real Travis Salt.
Good old Lionel.
Oh my god, that was too perfect. The way it worked out was too perfect for the story, but I felt so bad for Grog, but it was so perfect for the story.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like,
So right before that happened, Lionel came out to help them, because that's what he does, and he rolled 2 nat 20s on 2 consecutive attacks and just destroyed some things. And again, John, not knowing how D&D works, doesn't understand, like,
No.
how crazy crits are and how awesome it is and how good it is supposed to feel. And he's just like, oh, I rolled a 20, and then I rolled another 20, and then I rolled a bunch of dice and rolled high on them, and these things are dead. Go me. And then, Grog over here, feeling a little inferior, tries to do a reckless attack and rolls 2 nat 1s. It's only 1 attack, but with advantage, he still rolled 2 nat 1s. And Lionel's response was, it's okay. Everyone messes up sometimes. Let me get this one. And Lionel goes and takes it out. That was really good.
And he rolled really high damage too. And he had those giant duck dice! He
Mhm.
had those
Yes.
that a critter gave him, and they're like big plushy ducky dice, and he kept like rolling really well.
Yeah, I think he
His
got
duck
those.
Yeah,
luck.
where does John end and Lionel begin? Because like John doesn't know significance, and Lionel doesn't either. Like when it comes to Grog.
Yeah. I mean, we find out like from the character sheet and stuff that Lionel's like a level 15. We don't know how much of that is barbarian and how much of that is bard. We can kind of figure it out based on his inspiration die, which I think was a D8 or a D10. I don't remember, but I mean, he's a pretty capable dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't see too much of his bard side. I think he inspired once, didn't he, or something? But yeah, definitely the barbarian definitely came out, and I just love the barbarian off with Grog,
Hmm.
especially after stealing his sandpit away from him the night before.
But I feel like, Kate, we saw the bard, like, in the first time we saw, what was it? He used sleight of hand and stole those bullets off Percy or whatever, anything like that.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
the bard.
Yeah.
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 And I can't help but feel like, I know he's, like, that aspect of it, the fact that he has the bard, and that there's been a few things like that, I keep wondering, I'm like, is he more than he's letting on, and it's the bard side able to put up that fake front of like sweetness and dumbness and stuff like that? Because like, I don't know, I want to believe he's a nice sweet guy, but Matt has ruined me, and I can't help but like wonder, I'm like, wouldn't it be horrible / great if the last main guest they bring into the last main storyline turns out to be super evil? Like,
He's Vecna all along.
yeah, like,
Who knew?
That would be great. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, part of it might just come from John's playing of the character, just like playing that he's not very smart, because that's kind of what he wants, and because he's not that well versed in what's going on, it's easier for him to do that. But at the same time, like when you look at his character sheet, his intelligence is like 11 or 12 or something, and his wisdom was lower. I think his wisdom was like 8, but that's still not like that low. That's like, I think it's like the same wisdom that Scanlan has. So it could just be that he's playing him that way because he doesn't know any better, but I wouldn't put it past Matt and him to maybe have that be a facade, and he's actually a lot smarter than he lets on.
I don't know. You met him in real life, so do you think he's capable of playing the arch villain character?
Well, I
playing
mean,
as
he's a
adorable
professional
half-
actor, so I think he's capable of
That's
playing
true.
whatever. All right, so moving on. We get an apology from Scanlan now after that display. First of all, Scanlan thanks Lionel and says that was a great display. You did so great out there. Thank you. And Taliesin and Marisha's faces when this happens are priceless. Of course, you know, he did it on like Sam did it on purpose to kind of get back at Ashley and Travis for their salt that they've given him, but that was really, really funny. But then he does apologize to Pike and Grog, and even admits that he prays to Saren Ray sometimes.
oh, that was sweet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think that Sam had planned that to happen, or do you think he kind of changed that just because of how Pike both when like he found out that she was like trying to talk to him while he was away, and then also being very angry and salty about it?
I feel like he was playing into her talk, like when we first got to see her drinking at the bar, and she talked about how like sometimes I just like talk to Scanlan on my earpiece, and I know he's not there. And then Grog passed out, and then she talked to him, and I was like, ugh. And I feel like Sam had been playing. Like I feel like that's when it started. I feel like from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a direct correlation, like response to that. Not something that Sam had planned ahead of time.
Yeah, well, what I found kind of interesting with like Scanlan's return is I'm having like some, I wouldn't say trouble per se, but it feels like he's trying to be very genuine. And I feel like it's almost like a new thing for Scanlan to sort of like be this way because it's obvious that he's like sort of found different parts of himself that he's embracing. So it almost feels disingenuine that he's trying to be so genuine. So it's a really interesting dynamic because like he's talking with Pike about this and it's like I want to believe that everything he's saying is like super true and genuine, but it almost feels like it's not. I think it's just because it's so new for Scanlan, possibly. Or maybe I don't know. Could be reading too much into it, but that's almost what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, so the next thing I'm a little bit fuzzy on. Sorry, guys, we're not professional Critical Role watchers or anything. But they come upon some dudes. Were they just like regular cultists who were like carrying the box?
I guess so. They seem to go down pretty easily with Vex and Vax. I know they get automatic crits for being assassins, but I don't think there was anything special about them. They were just obviously there to take that to the ritual. I don't think there was much special about them.
Yeah. So they took them out with double assassinations, and inside they find a scimitar of speed, the third eye of awareness, and an iron bands of Bolaro. None of those have come into any sort of play or anything yet. Tyrion did some identifying to find out what those are, but not anything that crazy, but some cool little items that they can add to their stash.
QVax and Vex once again fighting over the advantage to initiative item.
Yeah, that third eye of awareness. It's pretty good if you can assassinate. I don't remember the context of this, but I have this written down. Sam
I like
saying,
where this is going.
"I love you both, but I am definitely," or yeah, "I love you both, but I am definitely poorer for having known you."
Oh, because he was
Yeah.
Terry. He was talking
Yeah,
to
Tyrion.
That's what
yeah,
Terry
yeah,
says to
yeah.
Vax and Vex.
Yeah, I don't remember where
Okay.
that came from, but that was such a good line. I hope that came up on the spot and he didn't like actually plan that, but it was so
I
good.
feel like he planned that. That's too perfect.
Yeah,
Then again, Sam is
probably.
an expert improviser, so I mean, it could just be like the thing you do where you take a saying and you make it into something more applicable, which this is the most applicable, as in because he was richer, so he might be emotionally richer for having known them, but he is literally poorer for having known them.
Yeah.
He does it so well with all like the songs whenever he does his inspiration. So I'm sure he can spin a saying like that around to his advantage so easily. Mm-hmm. And just on that, it for me it was so good having his Scanlan back doing his inspiration songs again. I've missed that so much. But yeah, no, I imagine he was able to come up with that one so fast because even when he's was being Tyrion and talking to Tyrion's mum about the books and making Matthew kind of have their discussions about the stories that they read and things like that. Like they're just so able from all their improvisation and all their history to be able to come up with such amazing things like that yeah, I have no doubt that he was able to just call that one up.
Yeah, it was so meta and such a good dig. I love it.
Dustin in chat pointed out he's like, it sounds like it could have been like a directly related to the end of Liam's game.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of Liam's game, when he was like, to each and every one of them, like, I was richer for having known you. And like, I mean, Sam and Liam.
Oh yeah, that's why he brought it up. And that's why I have it written down here because it's just so good.
Yeah.
Only Sam can come up with something like that, I think.
Yeah.
So moving forward, Vax actually steps on a trap, and they all take, I think, a bit of poison damage. Most of it's mitigated with Pike casting mass cure wounds on everybody. And they find the ziggurat. They get into the cavern. Looks like it's got a couple pillars with some statues on it, nothing of note, but then they see a bunch of cloaked figures there, some cultists, and Matt brings out the map. And as is when Matt brings out a crazy big map, something's going down. And there's like a skeleton minotaur, and things are looking a little rough until a female voice calls out for the cultists and the minotaur and whatnot to destroy Vox Machina. With Vex and her perception immediately triggers a voice that sounds familiar. Did any of you expect it to be who it was? When he said sounds familiar, I expected someone they liked to have betrayed them. That's my first thought as soon as that happens. And I was like, oh god, please don't be like a Laura or something. Like, please just not be someone that they like.
You thought it was one of their friendly NPCs?
Yeah.
Sorry. That would be amazing. But I'm like so mad that I was kind of a little bit spoiled because I got on Twitter the next day and saw who it was. Because I don't like have like a first reaction to who I would think it would be. It's like, oh, part of me thinks that it would be like, oh my gosh, it's Delilah come back, just because I could see Matt doing something like that. But I don't know because I was spoiled going into it.
Yeah, but it's fucking Delilah Briarwood.
Yeah. I had no clue at all. As soon as he said you recognize the voice, I was like racking my brain to think who was left, and I thought I was hoping that it wasn't going to be another person that was betraying them again, because there's been a bit of a spell of that lately, and I thought, oh, let's have something different, and I'm so glad it was. But yeah, no, that completely like caught me out. I was like, holy fuck, just no idea where that came from. That totally floored me.
Yeah,
and they were all surprised, obviously, too. Oh my god, one of the best things was just like watching their faces in that moment, and some of them like jumping up from the table and being like, it was so good.
Someone, I forget who it was, some critter I follow on Twitter got like a perfect screen cap of that moment that just like everyone's face just perfectly encompassed their like reaction over that. And my personal favorite reaction was John, because everyone has like different mixtures of like shock and like fear, and then there's John who just complete straight face, like no reaction, because this means nothing to him or Lionel.
Yeah, Talison's face, he's like not just surprised, but it's almost like shock and like horror that she's back. It just looks like he like literally saw a ghost. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? When you think about it, like clearly the other one was a portal to the Shadowfell. They know that now. They're fighting undead. It would make sense that Delilah could come back to life, but for some reason Matt still had us all.
Is it phylacteries and things that allow like dead things to? I don't know what it is, but don't undead things if they've kind of sealed their soul into an object or something. Can something along that lines?
Yeah, that is what you would use in the path to lichdom. There's also just true resurrection, which when you're at that level, that's something that could be done. There's the clone spell or something like that. Who really knows how it could have happened? We'll find out eventually, but I wouldn't be surprised if she had become resurrected or something, because she seems like she's herself, like she's not anything else, like she's still just Delilah Briarwood.
But she was a high-level necromancer, wasn't she? Like, so wouldn't it make sense of all the characters they've met to go to Lichdom? Doesn't it make the most sense for her? But then, like you said, there's also the people in the chat this whole time have been over and over again mentioning that clone spell that you just mentioned, which apparently brings living people back.
Yeah.
Which they also then used to explain why you could not use the clone spell on Silas. So that has already been, has all gone through.
Right.
Well, that's what interests me most, is that now we have, like, before Delilah was so tied to Silas, like her power and everything that was going on. Now Silas is like gone. Like, I'm pretty sure we can say like permanently gone. So now we have Delilah without Silas, but she's still involved, but she doesn't have the reason for her involvement before. So I'm interested to see where this goes with her character.
But oh my god, the thing Keyleth did, and I was like, oh man, Keyleth, I know she's the bad guy, but like, ow, like that's so deep, like that's so horrible, like.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, and then Matt even described, well, because she like, what did she do? Alter herself to look like Silas or something like that, and like, and Matt described that even for a moment, like Delilah was like, and then like, oh, like just like so angry, gonna
I can't believe Keyleth thought that was like a good idea to even try that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. It's a low blow even for her. So they basically just get into combat at this point. Delilah first casting a prismatic wall, which is kind of a bitch. I mean, it's a 9th level spell. It's crazy. It has so much rules text, but it is a little ambiguous about magical effects and teleportation and things like that, as we'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't think that there's a whole lot to talk about as far as the combat goes, besides Scanlan using reverse gravity and just flipping the entire board upside down.
And Pike's feeble mind
Oh yeah.
in the opposite end of the scale of brilliant to shit.
Yeah. So they get to a point where they pretty much deal with everything, except for Delilah and like her like right-hand cultist sort of thing. And yeah, Pike gets feeble-minded, which is pretty rough. We've seen that happen a couple times to Alora and Raishan. Not for very long, generally just a little bit, but Scanlan actually goes inside the orb with Dimension Door, which is...
Oh, but he tried, like, that prismatic wall is vicious. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, like I said, it's a little ambiguous about magical effects, and the way it's worded, this sounds like it's fine. First of all, it's an awful idea, I think, for Scanlan to just go inside there. Like, with Delilah right there, and then the spinning orb of death. Like, as soon as that happens, whether Matt, would allow it or not, if he had actually gone through all of the magical effects that would have happened. So the prismatic wall is basically, just like a giant, like, gobstoppers sort of thing, or whatever, the jawbreakers. They just have like layers. So he basically goes through like each of the colors. There's like 7 of them, and in order to pass through it, you have to go through each one, and you have to make a save and take some damage on each one. Each wall can be like dispelled with a certain type of effect, but they're all very specific, so it's really hard to get through that way. But the way it's written, there's nothing that says he can't like teleport past it. So he did that, and he failed his con save for the brightness of the prismatic wall, which blinded him inside. As soon as that happened, I was like, well, Scanlan's just dead. Like, he's inside this glowing ball, and he can't see, and Delilah's in there, the spinning ball of death is in there. We're just going to lose Scanlan, so I hope Tyrion stays for a long time. I was just expecting her to, like, throw him into the ball. Like, that's something she would be able to do pretty easily, I think, with as big as Scanlan is and him not being able to see anything. And then we know when Keela tried to touch the other one, she has to make a con save, and he could have just been torn apart. That's what I was expecting to happen. Thank goodness it didn't.
Yeah, the battle seemed to turn really quickly. I was surprised that literally as soon as he got in, she's like, no, I'm changing it, and off they went. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if it was just because it was ridiculously late for all of you guys that he kind of did that because of that reason, but I was like really getting into the combat, and when Scanlan was in, it's like, okay, right, now shit's going to go down. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she just turns it back into the black orb, and they bamf out of there through the portal. And it's over, it looks like. It seems like the black orb was kind of like a switch. When it's in the black state, it dispels all magical effects and whatnot. So when that happened, Pike can actually speak and has her normal intelligence again because her feeble mind is temporarily disabled. But yeah, and it was kind of a weird combat.
Well, it ended so oddly and suddenly, like you said, that it was just sort of like, oh, like, wait, the combat's over? That felt like we were working up to a big boss battle, and then just, delayed, basically.
But then how were they going to be, like, encouraged and pulled on through to the next part? Like...
Exactly. I think Matt had it planned all along. That's the reason they had the orb, the prismatic wall there, so she could stay there just long enough and then get out. I don't know. I think partially it was because Matt had designed it to not be a fight that they finish or win there, and also just because it was late. Like, you just wanted to get things going. The episode does continue for a little bit, though, just with them trying to figure out Pike's feeble mind.
Well, then Pike has that vision into the orb as well with Sarah and Ray, which is probably actually one of my favorite parts of the entire episode, and it's only like a few minutes right at the end.
Mm-hmm. I have to go back and rewatch that part. That was really...
Yeah, while she's in the thing, she's still feeble-minded, but because it's temporarily disabled, she calls to Sarah and Ray, and yeah, she basically just turns her attention to the orb. Kind of shows her that it's a doorway to the Shadowfell and tells her that that's where her destiny lies. So now we know 100%. Until this fight, we could only really speculate that that's where, the end game lied. But now we know 100% that, like, that's what they're doing. And we don't know, how long that's going to be. Like, are they just going to get in there next episode?
Well, that was the big hook they left on, was, does this mean we go, like, now? Like, this is the opportunity, we have to go now? Or do we wait and, prepare to go in?
Yeah, because Grog was like, so we just go and jump in?
Yeah,
good old Grog.
Grog might be okay to jump in, but everyone else, it might be pretty rough.
Well, I think... the corpse that they spoke to, I think it was the corpse mentioned that, like, to get through, you did have to be, like, hardy or something, implying that you really shouldn't go through if you're, like, really weak or low on HP. You should probably go in prepared.
The quote was, "You will need one of the crafted stones to pass unharmed, or be hardy enough to survive its ravishing doorway." So, like we saw with Keyleth, like, she had to make a con save when she touched it the first time. I said she could have just been torn apart without saving herself. It seems like the stones that they had were the ones that allow them to pass through without an issue. And we don't know where they are or what they were or how they can get any. They didn't really talk much about that. That was something that they probably should have asked the corpse. Because that was like the first stone, or the first question that they asked. But then they didn't ask again about, like, how do you get these stones or how do you make these stones or anything like that. They used all their questions about, Delilah and Vecna and whatnot. So they don't know how to get there.
Yeah. Well, I think even Percy Taliesin mentioned that after they asked their questions, he was like, oh, wait, we don't have another question. Like, shit, we sort of missed, like, the most important question we needed to ask next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When they first got into the ziggurat, though, weren't they all stood around it just throwing items in?
Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, they were putting
that
stuff
kind
in.
of suggested to me that they didn't understand what it was.
No, I think that they were my
Chucking things in they needed.
Yeah, they were like
Okay.
siphoning power through it or items or whatever. Similar to what they were trying to do with the other one, I think.
Yeah, I felt like Matt was kind of like waiting. He whenever they realized that going in there was their next big step. It felt like he was like waiting for them to decide like if they were gonna wait or if they were gonna jump in. If it kind of felt like one of those narrative hooks that I feel like Matt or any storyteller likes to do, where it's like this is sort of like a balance right here, like which sort of big decision are you going to make? But I guess we'll have to wait till next week to see.
Yeah. And with that, like, the episode ends pretty much there. I don't know if it was technically the longest episode, but it may have been. It was insane
Oh yeah.
how long that actually went. But next week we pick
Yeah.
up with them sitting there figuring out what they need to do. They know that Lady Briarwood is in the Shadowfell, and Vecna's return is nigh. So
Yeah, well, I think Matt even said, like, welcome to, like, suddenly being, thrust into your last arc. Like, it did sort of go to shit really fast right there.
yeah, so we don't know how long we have. So I mean, let's talk about this for a little bit. That's pretty much what happened with the episode. But like I said, we're doing a live one here just to kind of celebrate 100 episodes for the show that we all know and dearly love. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the impact and how things have gone and where we've been and things like that. Besides our normal players, I had to list them all because I had almost forgotten some. We've had 11 guests on the show so far, and 100 episodes later, it seems like things are coming to an end. We don't know how much longer there is. There could be 20 episodes, 30 episodes, or there could be like 5. It really kind of depends on how things spiral from here. But it sounds like they're going to be fighting Vecna at some point, if that's successful. Otherwise, they're going to be fighting, Lady Briarwood with an undead army, either one. How do you guys feel about that? Just the show ending in general, and how the last arc is playing out.
Well, it's kind of scary to think that this is pretty much, unless this is just like a peek into the ultimate last section, and there's like maybe a few other things they're gonna do first. It's kind of scary to think that we're in like the last arc of the story. Insert last CD of your video game.
Yeah, it's like bittersweet. We want to see like what happens in the story of Vox Machina, but we know that like it's coming to an end, and we know that most of their story has already been told.
I don't know. I'm wondering, like, how much of the battle they'll be fighting over there, or if, like, some of the battle will be brought to them, like, because it seems like, based on the fact that their enemies know how to use this orb better than them, and they've sort of been doing stuff and intentionally taking things and bringing them back, are they, like, storing up things over there to, like, plan for, like, a big assault? Or, like, are they hoping that Vox Machina will come to them? And then after taking out Vox Machina, then, like, the whole world is just, like, easy peasy.
Yeah,
like,
I think the goal is to get Vecna here, like in the Prime Material Plane. I think that's what they're trying to do. So if they make their way to the Shadowfell, they'll be fighting some stuff there. But I think that's, Lady Briarwood's goal is to bring Vecna to the Prime Material Plane. So it could be something that happens there. I don't know.
Are the two ziggurats linked in any way, or is it just an alternative way, like the one underneath Whitestone? Is that just an alternative way to get to the Shadowfell, or is there some link between the two?
It's a good question. We didn't hear anything about them being linked.
Well, I do know that, because I think when Pike sort of saw through this one, she saw like a tall, dark obelisk, and Vex asked if, Vex, I think, asked if she had seen one, because Vex saw one when she sent her arrow through the other one. So I think there's like an implication that maybe they're sort of linked in some way, or at least sort of come out around the same area. I mean, whether they can interact, I don't know. But if they both saw the same thing, I mean, I don't know how the Shadowfell works, so I don't know, maybe, like anywhere you go in the Shadowfell, if this obelisk is like an important center of it, maybe you can always see it. I'm sure someone who knows way better than me could correct me on that, though.
Yeah, I just took it as it basically just linking to a similar place in the Shadowfell, not necessarily being tied to the one under Whitestone, but since Delilah was unable to do everything she needed to do with that one, she had to find and or make another one that goes to relatively the same place where we would presume Vecna is in order to get this going. But I don't think that they're necessarily linked to each other. But at the same time, this one was able to transform into its white version, and they just hopped through it. So it's very possible that it can be reversed, and they can come back through that way. With that said, we don't know what the status is of the one in Whitestone. If it's still active and working and powerful enough, if they're able to do that there too. It'd be pretty crazy if Delilah just like pops through the one in Whitestone.
Oh God, no.
Well, Percy specified before they left, he was like, I make sure everyone's like watching it and they're like keep an eye on it and do stuff with it, blah blah blah. What I'm interested in, like I assume she would have the same power over either of them. I assume she can control them in the same way. Like especially they had more time with the one in Whitestone. The one in Whitestone, like when Matt described it, the ziggurat was like more uncovered, whereas in this one they said it's just barely uncovered. Right? Like they only just uncovered the top, I guess, and got the bare minimum of what they needed to get at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a scary thought, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of narrative, I could see like the final arcs are taking place more in the Shadowfell. I find it interesting. Like we come from this, like the last major arc was still pretty much the Chroma Conclave, which was a very sort of public arc, and that they had to get a bunch of forces together to fight the dragons, and like the whole world sort of could come together and fight them. But in matters like this where you're dealing with gods, I don't think you can have like just anyone. Like you can't send an army at a god. That's really not going to do anything against an army. Against a dragon can maybe do some damage, but not against a god. So I feel like it's kind of like a natural course now to send just this core group against like this major evil force.
Mm-hmm. I guess we'll see. Hopefully they will succeed. So,
hopefully.
yeah. With that, let's look back a little. It's been 100 episodes of like 4-ish hours each. Some a little less, some a lot more. With like the breaks and stuff cut out. Like that's a lot of time we spent watching Critical Role. That's more than I've definitely consumed anything besides video games in my life. I've never watched a show for that long or anything else. Even, rewatching Buffy and Angel and 12 seasons of that crap. I don't think it even compares to the amount of time I've spent on Critical Role.
According to Crit Roll stats, I believe it's because it was on like that big infographic they put out.
Yep.
I think it's about 13 days if you watch from beginning to end, and it is longer running than like I think they mentioned The Simpsons and something else, like another
Grey's
really
Anatomy.
Thank
More
you.
hours. 19 full seasons of television, more hours of programming than The Simpsons or Grey's Anatomy, over 317 hours.
which is
Insane.
insane.
Is that current or is that old? Like from a little while ago?
No, that's the stat they posted for the 100 episode.
Yeah, so as current as they can make it.
Yeah.
So add another 5.5 hours.
Yeah. Right? That's another how many episodes right there.
Yeah, that's
Major
like 6
television.
episodes of TV.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, they've been... I can't remember everything they've done at this point, and I know... I mean, I've been a big fan since day one, but I still have only seen every episode once, sometimes twice, if I'm rewatching it that week, sometimes for the podcast, but I haven't actually gone through and done a full rewatch, as I know some of my friends have. Oof. I don't know how they have the time for that. But, they essentially started in Craghammer, had some adventures in the Underdark, then we go through, like, Vasselheim and Pyra, and then there's, like, Whitestone and the Briarwoods arc, part 1, apparently. We can all go back and talk about the Briarwoods part 1. They have, like, Winter's Crest, and then the Chroma Conclave attacks. They go through, like, Western, Umbrasyl, the Feywild, Kevdak, Draconia and Vorgal, like the Fireplane, Thordak, Raishan, Marquette. All these places they've been and all these like classic stuff that they've done. Do you guys have any like particular favorite moments or episodes so far at this point now that we're 100 in and looking towards the end?
When you put it like that, Herc, sounds like they haven't done anything at all.
No.
Jeez.
They've just been shopping for 100 episodes.
It's amazing Travis is still around.
I feel like I should have known you were going to ask this question. Because it seems so blatantly obvious, and I'm not prepared for it at all. Obviously, like too many amazing things, like all the stuff with like the twins anytime they've had like sentimental moments, when like anytime either of them has like died and the other one has to save the other one, it's been pretty emotional and terrible. Anything with like sweet moments with anytime Matt plays an animal, anytime Matt plays Trinket, anytime Matt plays a duck. That's all the best stuff. And then some of the Scanlan songs. Oh my god, when we got a Scanlan song back this episode, I like almost died. I was like, oh my god, I've been missing Scanlan songs so much.
Yeah, I forgot how much I missed them too until they came back.
Yeah. Too many good things. Too many.
Yeah, for me, oh, go ahead, Ian.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I know the first point that I remember feeling like I was very invested in this was way back in the Underdark episode. It's maybe like episode 3 or something. Bax falls into the lava and I think falls unconscious or like almost loses his foot. And I was like and looking back now, that's like not even like that scary. But like back then at the beginning, I was like, oh my god, holy shit, I don't want anything bad to happen to these characters.
It took ages to get healed as well. Like for episodes after that, he was constantly going on about his gammy foot and constantly trying to ask for heals and restores. And like now they could just like do it in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. Liam with his like foot on the table all the time and everyone yelling.
Oh my
at him.
god.
Yeah, it was funny how intense that was. Like he failed 2 death saves and we were like so afraid that we were going to lose Vax like a few episodes in, and little did we know that he would die a few times now, but everything would work out in the end, I guess. So far.
I think for me the parts that kind of stick in my memory, because I'm really crap at remembering like the backstory. I'm just getting too old now. My brain is broken. So like whenever I come on these podcasts, everyone can remember every detail of every episode, and it's like, oh man, it's gone. But the things for me is it's always the Grog and Scanlan, that pairing together, to me, like outshines all the others. The interaction between them, like the one that I always recall is the one where Grog's got the guns and Scanlan is like, hey Grog, let's take a gun each, and Grog's like, no, I don't want one. And then when Percy comes out and he barters with him and like, give me your glasses and all that sort of stuff, and I'm so pleased that it's and I can't give them a shout out or anything, but someone who does the Critical Role animated has animated that one, and I have to say I am really sad. I watch that probably every other day. I just sit and watch that one Critical Role animated because. And every time I fucking die. I've seen it. I don't know how many times. And every time I am in tears, and it hasn't lost any of it. So those interactions between Grog and Scanlan, and I think Victor. I think Grog and Scanlan and Victor are my top moments.
Yeah. Did you see in the chat people said the animation was Gee Whiz?
Oh yeah.
So that's the one that you're probably watching, right? And then they brought up the one he did of Grog talking to Craven Edge in the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite of those animatics is the door one back from the Whitestone arc. Oh my, yeah, that's another one of my favorite moments is that struggle against that fucking door that took like how many spells and how much time. Oh my gosh.
So long.
What about the one where they're all teasing Vax about his cloaks, and now he must be pulling along a trolley of like cloaks, and it's going over the cobblestone like like. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, I've just looked it up on my phone, and apparently, according to my YouTube, it wasn't G Wiz, it was Ellie Vile.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's still G Wiz or not. But just to make sure she gets the proper shout out, because that's the one I watch.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, and you would think I would have a good answer for this since I asked the question, but I don't either.
That's much to think about it.
It's so hard to think about that, but yeah, to me, over this whole time, like I'm trying to think about it in more kind of long-term story arc sort of thing and like character progression. Maybe I'm a little biased because I sometimes say that she's my favorite, but I think Keyleth's progression from when we started until now is probably my favorite thing. How she's come from a weird, awkward, unconfident, person who's always so confused and conflicted to a leader for Vox Machina. I mean, at this point, most people like consider her their leader, which is kind of crazy, and completing her Aramente and everything like that. Yeah, man, it's so much.
I think there's too many, and as I say, having a broken brain and not being able to remember it all, I'm sure if I did have an encyclopedic knowledge, I'd think of hundreds of my favourite moments that I just can't recall now. But it's just how amazing the show is, and how great the cast and Matt is, that you could pick any moment and it's all fantastic. I don't think there's any moment was like, yeah, I didn't enjoy that bit was crap. The whole thing from second one till the end of the last episode is just unbelievable. It's the type of game we all want.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, there's never been a moment where I've been like, man, I'm really missing like this that happened before. Like there's great moments sprinkled throughout this entire show, and we keep having great moments. Like Matt, one of my favorite things in the show is whenever we sort of reach a new area and Matt has to describe it, he just gets this most amazing storyteller's voice. And it happened again just in the last episode when he was describing Shadowfell, when Pike sort of saw it through, and Saren Ray showed it to her, and he got that storyteller's voice again and just beautifully describing this, horrible, shadowy plane. And that happens throughout the entire show. It's not like it's a new thing, and it's not something that he used to do that doesn't happen anymore. Like these moments and these arcs just happen throughout the entire 100 episodes.
Yeah, some of my favorite things, really were guests. I think it's fun to see Vox Machina interact with new people, and some of the guests were so funny and interesting. I think the whole episode with Gurn was really great. That may be one of my favorites up there, and then Lionel's so pure. It's funny because I've started watching since like the very first live stream, and I think with the audio issues they had, if it were any other show, I might not have made it past episode 1. And it's kind of funny to me that people are still, getting into it and starting in episode 1. I don't know if I'm just, picky or particular or whatever, but it was hard for me to listen to. But it was so captivating that you can't help it. And I think from the moment that, like, Keyleth was in the bar dancing with Trinket is, like, the second that I was, like, actually hooked. And I wanted to have this on the stream, but it killed my frames when I actually had it up. But I actually I spent a lot of time today going through, I think they're called Critical Role Source or Crit Role Source on Tumblr. Who's just been posting, great like gift sets and things like that since the beginning. And I saved probably hundreds of gifts from there, and it was really you know, kind of touching, nostalgic. I don't know. Like it kind of made me like sad and happy at the same time going through and looking at all the memorable moments. I think that's what GIFs are really good for, because they pick out like really funny, interesting, memorable moments. And yeah, just going through like hundreds of them between now and all the way back to episode 1 was really cool. You forget some things that happen, and then when you see them and you remember, you're like, man, that was really cool. And then you laugh, and then you see them like cry, and you just like feel all of those emotions again. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Crit Roll Source for being there for so long and also being such a positive force in the fan community. Crit Roll Source is fantastic, and you're making me want to go through their gift sets again.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I want to go look through that stuff right now.
Yeah, I would have had that running on stream the whole time, but it changed my I drop so many frames when that happens. And I don't drop them, but my frames go down to like 9 per second, and that's not good enough for me. So, yeah, it's great. So yeah, is there anything else you guys want to bring up as far as that goes?
I feel like I could be talking about favorite moments the entire night if you let me go.
Listen, we've got all night. Yeah. This is a long episode. We're doing it live. There's no, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Structure? We don't have structure. What is structure?
Yes, there's no precedent here.
We're in uncharted territories.
Yeah.
Well, one point when you were talking about the guests they've had on, one thing I love that Matt does, or I assume that Matt is probably sort of, the big force behind like when he brings guests on and everything, since he's crafting the narrative, is he allows for so many different kinds of guests and kinds of characters. Like, not every character that's come in has been like a hard swinging battle character. Like Patrick Rothfuss played a very quiet, low level character that came to mean so much for Keyleth and her character development.
Yeah, you think about Shale.
Yeah.
Shale was like that too.
Shale's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Shale has some of the best lines, and I think he was only on for one episode, I believe. But Shale has some of like just the best lines in the entire, some of my favorite lines in the show, and she wasn't like the strongest character that ever came on.
But the fact that they even had the guest side of it as well is what I think is really brilliant, because they could have quite easily just said, no, this is us, this is all we're doing. The guests they had in were fantastic, but I admire them so much for essentially taking that risk, because it may not have worked out, but the fact that they got guests on at all, I think was a real credit to them and their ideas for the show, and it just made it fantastic.
Yeah, there are definitely some guests that are, more entertaining and better than others as far as their characters and how well they mesh with the group and just their situation when they were introduced. But they all kind of have their own way, and I thought that was really neat too. Yeah, how they were all so different. That's hard sometimes when it comes to D&D. We're all players like ourselves. We know what it's like when you're playing a character. You can only do so much as far as game rules go. When you're playing a rogue, you have what a rogue has, and it's up to you to make it a different character. So it's funny how they can go through being, just a D&D player and all having their own individual personalities and traits and everything like that. The difference between like Kashaw and Pike, between being both clerics but just complete opposites about how they act in their backstories and everything. It's great.
Absolutely.
I think that's also one of the strengths of like the system they're using too. I know I've talked about this, with like Critter friends before. One of the reasons I love 5e is it emphasizes that role playing. You can play different kinds of clerics. Like Kashaw and Pike are so different, but they're both clerics and very well within the boundaries of what a cleric can be and can act as and can do. And that's one reason I love the the 5th edition of D&D.
I'm I'm glad they ended up switching because apparently they were playing Pathfinder before, and I feel like Matt has spoken about this before, or someone has spoken about this, that they switched to 5e for the stream, and I'm glad they did, because, well, just in general, like, I feel like you said, it provided them a lot of variability they were able to do. Just like streamline. The people have said they're like a little less math, a little less rolling, a little less like things being complicated. And just for all the new people that it introduced to these role playing games, it's I'm glad they chose something that was so accessible and like a newbie could come into and not be completely terrified of. Because I mean that was the story for me. Like I think if they'd been playing Pathfinder and I'd seen how much more complicated it was, I would have been like, nope. Like that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you're playing a Pathfinder game or a 3.5 game. When you're in it, you're still role playing and doing everything, and the game wasn't that much different to them, but it's very much harder to present it and to have people watch. I think I don't know. I haven't seen specific conversations about them talking about why they did it and whatnot, but it definitely makes it for a lot more presentable. Just because, it's a lot less math, like we said. I don't know if it's necessarily less rolling, because adding advantage means more rolling, but it's definitely less math and numbers, and they're not pausing for like 20 seconds to make sure they got that modifier right, because we all see that math's not always their strong suits. So it would have made the show a little bit harder to watch. Not worse, but sometimes harder to watch for some people. But yeah, so I guess we are going to maybe open things up to the chat a little bit. I know that there are a few of you in there. If there's any questions you have for us, either personally, if you want to know what I had for breakfast, I'll tell you, or just Critical Role related stuff, questions about what you think might happen, or comments about what your favorite episode was, or how you got into it, whatever.
I didn't agree to this. I don't want to tell anyone what I had for breakfast.
Please tell us all.
You didn't sign the same thing I signed, Jeff?
No? What is this? No, but the chat
By
has
the
been
way,
saying a lot of good stuff.
I had a Belvita granola bar and a banana.
Yeah, I'm intrigued now,
I'll be the
Herky.
first
What did
one
you have
to
for
come out and
breakfast?
Say it.
I had tacos, sort of. By tacos, I mean they were corn tortillas with melted cheese. There was no meat or anything else on it. It was just like a cheese taco sort of thing. I live a great adult life. Yes, it was at it was at 12:30, so it wasn't technically breakfast, but it was the first thing I ate all day. So I guess that counts, right?
Yes.
Please.
I think so. Someone asked, do you currently play D&D, DM, or both? That was from Trogaff.
I currently play D&D. I'm in 3 ongoing campaigns right now. One is weekly in real life, and then one is bi-weekly usually, and one is every 3 or 4 weeks, and those 2 are online. And it's great. I have DM'd in the past, but I'm not currently DMing a campaign or anything. I kind of like doing one-shots and things like that a little more. It's harder for me to draw out a long story and whatnot, but maybe one day I'll do that. I'm kind of more of the Liam kind of DM, where I like to have some kind of funny stuff going on with like a one-shot. What about you guys?
Who's gone?
Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, I usually am in at least one game. I have an ongoing weekly game with my brother and some of our friends. That's been going on for like 2.5 years now.
Nice.
So that one's been going, and then between that, I just play in a bunch of one-shots or games here and there. Like I played in one with Jess for a little bit. I just started a Curse of Strahd game in real life recently, so that's been super fun. We just had our second game recently. That one's going to be like about bi-weekly. Other than that, it's just like one shots and little games here and there. And I've only DM'd once. I DM'd Death House for one of my friends for his birthday, so that was super fun. But I don't DM regularly.
Shout out to our girls' game. Oh, I miss that game so much.
I know. Hey, Christina said that she'd be up for running like a one shot with the girls. So
Oh, shit. We totally gotta do that at some
We
point. Ian, you want to go or should I go?
You go.
Okay. The only game I regularly play right now is I have my game, Star of Misfits. If you check out that hashtag, you'll see all our nonsense. We're extremely goofy, and we're all always just, oh my goodness, we're so, like, I don't know. Our DM barely puts up with us, because we're pretty much, like, he regrets all the magical items he gave us. Like, he gave us pigments, and I forget what else, and, like talking magical items and all sorts of stuff, and, like, oh my goodness, we're always up to no good. I started to DM just last year, and I DM a game for my little cousins, and they're friggin' the cutest. I think when I started playing with them, they were like 8, 11, and 13, and now they're all a year older. And they constantly keep me on my toes, and I never know what to expect of them, and they're always pushing, like, what they can do. They're like, can I do this with a bonus? Can I do this with a bonus? Can I, like, kick him in the shin? Can I, like, do this sort of thing? The last kill they got, the druid stuck a fireball up someone's butt. Like, that's, like, little kids are the best.
It's so different than what Vox Machina does. They always aim for the butt, too.
Yeah, so that's me.
I'd like to be a player, in that I don't really get to play online too much, mainly because most of the following is US based. There's a lot. It's picking up in Europe, in the UK, but I think the main following is out there, and I think it's a bit more stigmatized over here. So I don't get to play online kind of hardly ever, other than the odd one shot. I'm in one face-to-face game here, but we all have kind of scheduling issues and things like that, which means that our availability means that we probably get to play once every 4, 5, 6 months. So that kind of doesn't work. So I had to turn my hand to DMing. So I currently DM for 2 separate groups, kind of at my place, where people come over. We meet, varies really, every 3 or 4 weeks, not desperately regularly. But I'm a primary school teacher, which I think is your elementary school, maybe. And I was doing a D&D club for the kids there after school. But this term I've turned it into a learning intervention thing. So children who have educational needs or struggle socially or with maths and English and things like that. So I now run it as a educational intervention program. So, I talk to their teachers and say, well, what is this child struggling with? And I'll get that into some kind of puzzle or something that they can then work on that week. So I'd like to say I'm a player, but I'm probably more DM, considering I DM for 3 separate games. But yeah, I need to get more gaming in, more playing.
That's fantastic,
that's
by the
super
way.
awesome. Yeah. That's so cool.
And because the thing is, they don't see it as learning at all. They just come along each week and play D&D, and they don't twig that actually all the adding up of health points and rolling dice and adding modifiers, like they're doing maths. And when they have to solve problems, it's teamwork, and they just come along and play D&D. But it's hoping to help out their learning, and it seems to be like their results that they've had this year, have their progress has massively increased. Now, obviously, I can't say that's all down to me and running D&D, but their teachers are very good and everything like that. But I'd like to think it had some kind of impact on it. But yeah, these kids with learning difficulties or social difficulties, it's just D&D is already special, but seeing them do that and the impact it has on them just kind of breaks my heart a little bit. It's so amazing.
Yeah, like, games in general for education are amazing. even when they're not designed to be. I mean, I know I learned so many things from playing video games from a young age. And I didn't have necessarily any learning disabilities or anything like that, but you learn so much from playing games as just, logic and math and vocabulary and problem solving and everything. It's kind of crazy, but that's really cool. So Death Likes Cats in the chat asked when Vox Machina's story comes to a close, how much will you cry, and will you stick around for the next one?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
I will probably cry. I'm not a big crier when it comes to stuff, but when it happens, that's kind of when I know that I really care about something. I mean, I can think about all of my favorite TV shows, and every single one of those has made me cry, and they're not that many, and it's not that often. And as a matter of fact, I'm finally getting through Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and it just made me cry, and I was like, all right, well, this is officially on my list. The only time I can think that I've cried during Critical Role was the discovery of Tiberius's body and their whole send-off for him. That definitely made me cry. I think that's the only time I actually cried during the show. I maybe teared up a little bit, like I mentioned, going back through the gifts and the history today, but I think the end might get me. But of course I'll be here for the next one. I mean, we have a podcast to run. It's going to happen.
I don't know if it's my insular contact with everything, but I missed the whole announcements of that this storyline was coming to an end, and I still don't know where it was mentioned or whatever, because with my not being able to watch it live, and I have to ignore Twitter until I watch the episode and things like that. Like the whole, obviously being on Twitter, I have got the gist that the storyline is going to come to an end, but I had no clue about that, and because I saw what told me was someone tweeted Liam and said, "Oh, is it going to hurt not playing Laura's twin any longer?" So that was how I discovered it. But yeah, so I didn't know about that and didn't see where the announcement came from. So, but yeah, no, there's nothing as good as this. I got into Critical Role from Acquisitions Incorporated because I follow. Oh shit! It's really late. Who plays Binwin? Anyway,
I don't remember his name, but I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I
You're
followed
the only
him.
one blinking.
Yeah, it's 2:30 a.m. But yeah, I follow him on Twitter, and he just sent out a tweet saying, "Oh, while I'm doing my artwork, I'm watching this game." So I found it through him, and I adore Acquisitions Incorporated. Scott Kurtz, thank you very much. I adore Acquisitions Incorporated, and I will follow that through, and it's amazing, and I will keep up with them. But Critical Role outstrips that for me, and so I will be here until they say, right, we've kind of got to put this to bed. We're not doing this anymore. But yeah, I will be here until then. And way beyond, because the community will endure, and there'll be lots of podcasts and episodes to rewatch.
Yeah, there hasn't been necessarily an official announcement. It's just they've been talking about it. Matt's mentioned that the story's still going to take place in Exandria. It'll just be, I think, a while after the Vox Machina story, and there'll be new characters and everything. But it'll take place in the same world. And yeah, I think they already have, like, a lot of them have talked about that they already have their characters ready. Like, they know what they want to play and have their backstories written and stuff. So they're prepared for it, but we don't
Didn't
know
they
when
already
it's actually gonna
say?
happen.
I thought someone either said or hinted at that it'll probably take place in Marquette. Like they want to do a different, like in the same world but on a different continent. And I thought I remember seeing that they said Marquette, and I wondered if that was why, like, when they went back to Marquette in this episode, Matt did like a full like redo description and it just made it like really built it up again and just really made it sound so good. Oh, someone else is saying Wildmount, so there you go. Could be anywhere.
Yeah, I think it was Wildmount.
I have this vague memory of someone saying that like their next campaign would be like sort of in the future too, like not super close to when Vox Machina was a presence, like maybe a few generations or like decades out or something. I could be making that up, but for some reason
I thought I heard that too.
Yeah,
like
I think
I think that was Herky just said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, about like 100 years in the future or some relatively far away in the future, and yeah, I believe they said it was going to be on Wildmount. I mean, Matt's put so much time into this thing. He's got that book coming out. They're going to use it to its full extent.
The one thing that
the interesting thing about that though is that whenever there's not going to be a whole lot new to discover. They're going to be revisiting old places, and it'll be interesting to see that with new characters and see how the world has changed in that time. So it's still, even though it's not Critical Role, it's still the same sort of environment. So it's going to have that same Critical Role sort of feel. It's just going to be different characters. Continue. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say one thing. I kind of, before this story closes, I did want like a new intro sequence. I wanted like a season 3 intro where they were doing something else. That was like one last thing that I kind of wanted to see happen once I heard this storyline, was that I'd hope that would come out, and I kind of thought there would be for the 100th episode. I thought they might have got together to do a different intro sequence. And the one thing that I do want, which has nothing to do with like a new season, is I would really, really, really like some kind of live action CGI recreation of one of their fight scenes. Because if you think about it, like a round of turns is about 6 seconds, and they destroy most things in the first kind of 5-6 rounds. So you're only looking at like a 20 to 30 second sequence of live action something, and I know they haven't got the budget to pay a company to do that, but at some point in the future, if they continue to grow and get bigger, I'd like them to take one of their big fights and all get decked out in their costumes and have CGI done to it, but actually recreate that 20 or 30 seconds fight, which when we watch it on Critical Role, it takes 40 minutes or whatever, but in real time it'd be about 20 seconds, and I'd really, really fucking love them to do that, to actually see them as their characters in a fight that we've heard and seen, so that you cut out the dialogue and you just look at who cast what in which order in which round, and you just blast that into a mini film. Would be brilliant.
I got like the Briarwood fight, like seeing like a full actual sequence of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be so intense. I would
so
love
much
that.
work and so much time, but that would be so cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That they haven't probably got the budget for it, or it would have to be like a long time in the future. But just to see like a mini film of some actual Vox Machina, action would be brilliant.
So talking about the next campaign, I just thought, I think around 100 years or something. This what I heard. I believe Matt may have said that, but I could be wrong. It'd be longer. But if that were a similar time frame that he was talking about, can you imagine? I mean, not all of Vox Machina is going to be dead at that point, outside of, some kind of murder or non-natural death. Some of them will live a lot longer than that, and Keyleth, should live a lot longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think it would be like if, like, the new party were to talk to a member of Vox Machina and have Matt play them?
I think it will definitely happen, but I think they'd play themselves. I think
so?
I think well, I think if it was just a conversation, I think they'd say, or he'd probably send them a message like on in secret. But yeah, I think they will absolutely, definitely at some point come across at least one of the characters, and it may well be Matt to kind of blow their minds a little bit, but that they have to come across a character at some point.
Yeah, I mean that's assuming they survive Vecna, of course, but
Yeah.
we'll see what actually happens in the end.
Matt is
but-
so good at playing their characters, though.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say,
I could see him doing it, like playing
Yeah,
like
it would
Keyleth as
Great.
the leader.
It would
of
just be
the
really
Ashari
funny
and
to
everything.
see Marisha talk to Matt while Matt is playing Keyleth and Marisha's playing someone else.
Yeah. But if like Matt is so good at like being even when like sometimes like he's had to do little bits of the guests and stuff like that before, and he's so good at it. Like he's so true to the character, and he like plays them so well, and I think he could do it. Just a little bit, just a little tiny bit.
He's so good.
So Dyson Sphere asks if there are any character choices you guys would want to see people play. It would be so weird not seeing Travis play Grog, etc. So we know that like some of them want to play like completely opposite sort of characters, right? I think Keyleth wants to or Marisha wants to play something very different from Keyleth, something probably a little more angry and not quite as good, and something maybe a little more true to her actual real life character.
Yeah, I would love to see Travis play like a craftier, sort of, more cunning character.
Like what was it in that Western one shot he
Yeah,
did?
that's exactly what I thought of in the
man.
Was that Deadlands or something?
Yeah.
Character.
And he held up that accent so good too. Like he was so good in that character. Oh my god! But I can't help but feel like I feel like if Travis can get away with it, he's gonna want to play some sort of a werewolfy character since that has like been his obsession since forever.
Yeah.
But who knows? But yeah, like Travis says, like he was like a very like. What was he, like a journalist or a photographer or something? Like he was like sort of like a timid book like gentleman, like English gentleman, wasn't he, or something like that? Like I would love to see him do something like that. That was too good.
I don't think he's gonna do spellcasting. Still doesn't seem to appeal to Travis though. But if he wants to play something very different, there's probably other options he could do that's not spellcasting, but still smarter than Grog.
Werewolf, definitely.
Bloodhunter Monk, Deathlegs Cat said that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
Also, I love Monk. I have a real soft spot for Monk because that's my my class in my main game.
Monks are so cool.
So anytime anyone mentions Monk, I'm like, Monk? Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he might be a little intrigued in them anyway because of Earthbreaker, Groon.
Mm-hmm.
But monks are so cool. Yeah, I mean, they're all professional actors, so they're all really good at doing what they do. I think we've seen a little bit of each of them do something different in some of the other games they've played, but it'll be interesting to see what actually happens.
I'm excited to see whatever they do. I'm like cool with them going similar. I'm cool with them going different. Like I'd kind of love to see them all do like very opposite to what they were already doing.
What if Sam just plays one of Scanlan's children?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I am just very excited to see them start at like level, I think Matt said 2, because it's right before you get like your specialization, but you're not like clogging around at level 1. I just want to see that like starting and throwing the new characters together, and just the beginning levels of a D&D game are just so fun. Like starting high level is fun because you have all sorts of shit you can play with, but starting low level is fun just because you're still figuring things out.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. I don't know if I'm just a purist, but jumping in at high level just feels unnatural to me. I feel like you have to earn those powers. If you just like hop in at level 10 or 15 or whatever, it doesn't feel like you really earned the power that you have.
And I find when I've played one shots where someone has said, "Oh, we're gonna play at level 6 or whatever," it's like, fine, great, I'll make up a level 6 character, but because I haven't progressed up with that character, I'll be halfway through the game. It's like, oh shit, I forgot I could do that, and there's that ability. Like you've got them on your character sheet, but like there's a second page, or you haven't, because you haven't developed those skills as you've played on. You haven't kind of added to it and fixed things in your memory. So whenever I play a high level for a one shot, I forget half the things that I can do. So I'm with you. I much prefer starting low and playing on.
Yeah, the 6 or 8 is maybe the highest I would ever do for like a one shot or something like that. The other thing about those is every character I've made for ones of those, like they're optimized to be that level. You know, you don't need to worry about what that character was at level 4 or level 5 or whatever. You're building that character at this specific level, so you didn't really have the growing pains of, you know, taking this spell because it was good when you're low level, but having it be useless now, and things like that. So you kind of, your character's a little bit better because you built them knowing what they're supposed to be. But anyway. Cool. Well, we've gone about 2 hours. And I think that's, well, it's been 2 hours since I've gone live. It took maybe 5 minutes for us to actually start, but I think that's about a good time to wrap it up. I know it's getting pretty late there, Ian.
Poor Ian.
Oh,
That's cool.
Ian for MVP.
Yeah, the things he does for Critical Role and Critical Reroll and children.
I do nothing. I do absolutely nothing.
Oh, gosh.
I hardly ever get on Twitter or anything else. I just stick my nose in and be rude whenever I can.
Listen,
I'm not like you guys that are there, you know, slogging it out every day and things.
well, we appreciate you nonetheless. Sticking your nose in places and being rude is kind of what I'm good at, so I appreciate it. Yeah, so I guess we're gonna wrap things up there. We still have a little bit to go with Fox Machina, so we'll see how things go. This is a regular podcast for those of you listening. We will put the thing up on as audio on the regular podcast mediums. You'll be able to see it there probably in a day or two. We are not going to be editing this because of the nature of everything. Hope you guys like it as it is. So let's go ahead and start to sign off here. First, let's go to Anna Marie because she has something that she'd like to talk about and promote as we get out of here.
All right, awesome. I won't take too much of your time. Reminder for anyone that didn't come into the beginning of the stream. I'm AC_Mickey on Twitter. Just one of the fan artists and critters for Critical Role. And I am doing some writing for a Kickstarter for a book called Atlas Animalia, which if you play tabletop, games like D&D, Pathfinder, anything like that, it's a system neutral book that explores all the different variants of all sorts of awesome. Oh, Herc even put the link in the thing, so that's cool. It explores variants of classic RPG monsters, like phase cats and all that sort of cool stuff. So if you ever wanted to see a tabby phase cat or a panda owlbear, this is the book for you. I'm just doing some of the writing for it, like lore. There's going to be lore, how to bring them up, all sorts of backstory on them. And the artist, Sarah Dollinger, is amazing. I've worked with her before. So if you like that sort of stuff, give it a look. Shares help. Any sort of anything you can throw at it, from a share to a few dollars, helps. It's going to be an awesome book, so I'm super excited about it. And I know some of the critters have already checked it out, and I love every one of you that has checked it out and, helped us reach our goal, because it's really exciting. So yeah, thank you. It's going until sometime, it started June 4th, so I think it's like a 32-day campaign, so early July is the cutoff. But yeah, I'm excited about it, so thank you for letting me plug that, Eric.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we are a community-focused thing, and we're here to support each other and our cool endeavors. And don't ever downplay how great your art is. If you don't follow her, you should, because she posts amazing Critical Role and non-Critical Role related art all the time.
Yeah, people follow me for the Critical Role art, and then I started showing less and less of it, and I feel terrible.
Don't feel bad.
Everyone along for the crazy rides on my art and writing. I love you all very much.
It's all good stuff. Also, I want to check out this awesome monster thing you're talking about. It sounds so cool.
It is, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about it. The company Metal Weave Games has done similar books in the past, and all their stuff looks amazing. I think their one that's like the Baby Bestiary that was like baby monsters.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Has also been like pretty popular, and that looks super cute. So yeah, check out all their stuff in the current Kickstarter. It's really awesome. I'm kind of like, how did I get pulled into this? But
Nice. And then if you've listened to our podcast before, you definitely know these other two people. But in case you don't and/or don't follow them and want to, because they're cool and have beautiful faces, Ian, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as @thisisnotian. It's probably only useful for the people who have watched the video because I'm half Scottish, so it's spelled the Scottish way, which is IAIN. I have no talents at all. I have nothing to offer you whatsoever. I can't draw. I can't do anything like that. But I am very good at talking about gaming, particularly role-playing games. So if you just want to hit me up and talk about shit about gaming, I am all up for that. But yeah, pretty boring other than that.
can you type your handle into the chat, Ian?
It's on the stream, but yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yep,
Mind and typey fingers don't always work together.
Oh my god. The you got a compliment in chat, Ian. The people don't mind that you have quote unquote no talent at all because apparently you have the sexiest accent ever.
I
True.
didn't know that.
There you go.
So I like to follow you.
That's
So,
what Kirk was talking about when he said follow for the beautiful faces and the accents come along too if you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'll do well on the audio podcast then.
What about you, Jess?
Hi, I'm Jess. I've been doing this podcast for all these episodes and it's been a long time and sometimes I don't do it well, but I'm here and I do the thing.
Shut up,
and
you're the best of us.
Twitter is the only
The only one.
the only pure one. No. Twitter is the only place online you can find me, so go there. Like the go_JG is my handle, and yeah, mostly I just retweet awesome art like what Anne Marie does, and then I just retweet when there's new episodes of the podcast. That's and then on Thursday on Critical Role night, it's just like nonsense. Just me going blah. That's it.
And
we all are.
I'm Herky, also known as Hercules. I'm at Herkiavello. I also don't do cool arts and whatnot, and I'm on Twitter a lot, but I don't post that much. And usually when I do, they are dumb jokes and bad puns and
Puns, best
things
puns.
like that.
So
I thought you were
top-notch
listening for
puns.
reasons not to follow you. This
I know.
all sound like reasons I should follow you.
No, you probably don't want to. But with that said, this has been episode 72 of Critical Reroll, and we appreciate all of you and this great community for everything that you've brought to all of our lives, because it's definitely made my life better. I've met some of the coolest people I've ever known because of this show. So we certainly appreciate all of you. And with that said, you guys have a great evening or day or whenever it is that you're listening to this, and be good to each other.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.